Hello. Hello. Hello? Question mark? Anyone there? Good morning, evening, afternoon, etc. Wherever you are in the world. Hope everyone's having a good Wednesday. To-do list today is I want to do some gameplay, or at least start laying some more of the groundwork and the architectural stuff for the game. So I think that's what we're probably going to be doing. Wait for some people to roll in. Is this on? Okay. Yeah, so what we've got so far is kind of like the base level mechanics that I wanted to get. We're definitely going to want more mechanics, but I think it's a good starting point. What I want to do is start ripping out main and building out a bit more of an abstraction. We're going to need like a player class, a level loader, or a level class, and I want to kind of get it to a point where we can load a level, either hard-coded or, I don't know, from a file. I haven't really decided yet, but either way we can load a level, and then we can complete that level for some given definition of complete, and then it will load up the next one, and then we've kind of got that framework set up to be able to get going. Queco, evening. Yep, Matthias, hello. All doing well, my end. Also, the thing I want to start off with is more of the kind of decoupling architecture. I want to create some sort of messaging system. So we currently have events, but those are specific, and they're probably better named as like window events. Those are things that come from Windows. Those are like key press and mouse move and mouse button press. Oh yeah, I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. I will embiggen the code in a minute. At the moment, this is just my preamble talking with my face. But yeah, I want to create some sort of. So we got Windows events, and those come from the window class, and we pump those and we handle them. Eventually, like other parts of the game are going to need to respond to those events, as well as other things like level complete or collision detected or who knows what. And rather than coupling everything together with like, if this happens, do this to this class, if this happens, do this to this class, I want to completely abstract that and create a message passing, message bus, message queue kind of thing. So you just sort of, when a thing happens that you want to notify people of, you post it, and then in the background, kind of unbeknownst to you, people who are interested in that message receive it. So I think we're going to start with that today, because basically I don't fully know how I want to architect this yet. There's a couple of design decisions to be made as we go along, and I'm probably just going to make those decisions live as we go along. I think it'll be unidirectional events. Like, you'll just post stuff into the void and things will happen. So yeah, well, let's embiggen this and smaller myself. Julian, hello. Okay, so like I said, I think we're going to start off with that, because if we go down in main, we've basically got this. I was thinking about it. We've got this bunch code, right? And what this does is this handles the Windows events. So if it's a stop event, do a thing. If it's a key event, do a thing. If it's a mouse event, do another thing. And other parts of the code are going to care about this. And I don't really want to kind of copy and paste this semi-miserable context for if templated visit lambda thing all over the place. I really want that in one place, and then to abstract that into a more game specific architecture that things are easy, and that becomes easy to interact with. So all these will eventually just become post message, and then the player class that we will eventually write will be like, oh, I'm interested in mouse events, so I will be notified on those, and then I can internally do these. So basically pull all the camera, all the movement, everything out of main. And main is literally just there to create a window, create load a level and manage the window and the rendering and create the renderer. Maybe not even the renderer. I haven't quite decided yet how that's going to work. I would say we should always be expecting ranges. I think that's a fair assumption. I don't know if we're going to need them, but I'm always expecting to use them. So as I was saying, I don't really know what any of this is going to look like yet. I think we're just going to figure it out live. So I think I definitely want to try and keep the code a little bit tidy as we go along. So I'm definitely going to start off with a source like messaging directory. That seems like a good place to start. And then what I'm probably going to do is build out a bunch of, this is how I kind of think about things like interfaces. I'm probably going to start building out a bunch of header files. So effectively defining the interface and not worrying too much about the implementation, kind of assuming we can figure out how to sort of fill in the blanks when we get there. But I want to see the interplay of things and kind of conceptually how things are going to interact with each other. And the easiest thing to do that is probably with the header files. So let's start. So I think you're going to want like a message bus. I think there's probably 1,001 things you can call this. Message queue. I'm trying to avoid using the term event because we've already used that term for Windows events, and maybe those should have been called Windows events rather than events. But just to completely separate them, events are tied to the windowing system and messages are tied to the gaming system, the game system as a whole. So events will become messages. That's kind of where I'm thinking about it and kind of delineating those in my mind. So let's do class message bus, and we're going to want some publics and some privates. Okay. And then we're going to want as well, I haven't quite decided where this is going to go, but thanks. So we're going to need a message type. I want things to be done on enums. You could do it on strings, but then there's a certain potentially performance impact. I'm not super worried about the performance of this. Obviously, I don't want it to be like naff, like super slow, because we're going to potentially be sending a lot of messages. But based on the scope of the game, I think we can afford to lean slightly more into flexibility and maintainability over like hyper optimization. But I still would like an enum for the message type. So this could be something like, you know, mouse move, for instance, maybe even like mouse move, and then like key press, and then mouse button press. Why have I done that? That's not C++. Something like that. Okay. I don't. Hey Maro, sorry I didn't see there. You're going to create a queue which you can use for both game events and window events, or is it game window specific? Again, we're kind of figuring that out as we go along. My vision is just you post messages and they instantly get delivered to. It's basically pub sub, right, or publisher subscriber. If you're familiar with that, things can subscribe to message types like this, and then people can post messages of that type, and then the people who are subscribed get notified them there and then. So there's no queuing going on within the message bus. However, entities themselves are free to queue up those messages. So what I might do, what I'm thinking initially, again, I'm already thinking like 2 steps ahead, is the player class subscribes to all these because these are all to do with player input, effectively, all influence what the player does, and those get queued up. And then when it's the player's turn to update, it processes all the messages that it's queued up. So rather than having to do all the update logic every time one of these messages comes through, which I think could get a little bit messy. I mean, ultimately it'd be the same thing, but it'd be like, okay, since we were last updated, we've received these messages. Let's now process them in our like update tick. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But we'll see where we get to. I think netcode is just I'm not a game dev. I've never worked in the industry. I don't know all the nomenclature, so I do apologize. But I think netcode does not just mean like networking code. So if you needed to communicate with a server or a peer, that would fall under sort of the broad term netcode. I could be wrong. I don't know if it's a library. That is my understanding of the term netcode. So, well, I think not everyone would need to listen to key presses, but if they do, then that's fine. Again, I think we just need to write some code and just see what mess we get into and then fix it up. I'm fully prepared to make mistakes. No go live message in Discord today. I will have to check with AC, who has kindly set up the Discord for me, because I must admit, I'm not an expert. Apologies if that was the case. Especially good netcode, I guess, would be one that is kind of meets the business requirements for it. So whatever you have in terms of latency and throughput and not replayability, delivery guarantees and stuff like that. I guess you mean like good code, in which case I guess is a little bit more subjective. Are you doing both key presses and hold, or just the press? We're just doing probably press and release, so those might be two separate events. I don't know. I want to write some code. I'm not. These might change. These are just examples to start with. But then stuff like more game specific, like collision detected, or I don't know, if we had enemies like enemy like shot fired or enemy killed or something like that, if we had that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I think like, so here's the first big conundrum, right? Here's the first what am I saying? Here's the first big design decision. Right. We're gonna have something like this, right? Like you get the message bus and you post a message in, right? I think we can all agree, hopefully we can all agree, that is probably what we want. However, we're going to need to pass in some data, like the message type, just having the message type itself is not enough to kind of action it. So you've told me you've pressed a key. Cheers, mate. Like what key? Was it a down? Was it an up? So we need to pass in some data. So I'm kind of in two minds about this. Very much in two minds. Not the correct, that's not what I mean. The more abstract way is this, right? Pass in a stood any, okay? And then the subscribers will get probably a reference, const ref to that data. Doesn't really matter, like, but that way you can pass anything in, and the abstractions will take care of you. It uses type erasure. You know, you don't have to care about it. You have to cast it on the other side, but if you cast it wrong, then it will tell you. So it's unlikely. You know, this is the modern C++ equivalent of a void pointer. So if you're doing this in C, right, you would probably just do that and get on with it, which is absolutely terrifying. We don't want to do that. So we could do that. The only issue with this is stood any could potentially do a heap allocation under the hood. And actually it's very much it is an implementation detail that it might optimize that away into some sort of small buffer optimization. So we might not want that. We could write our own any. In fact, there's a live stream where I've done that before to kind of show type erasure. Or we could, I will catch up all the chat in a second. Or we could just be like, I don't know, in key. We could just pass in the arguments to that function, right? And you just shuffle those along. Let me just have a quick look at what everyone's saying. So I am not planning on doing any net code. This is purely a single player game. Okay, so that's just my so I have no plans on doing that for this project. So I was thinking about doing it with templates. The problem is that what happens on the other end, right? So presumably at some point, right? So this is why I want to write several headers at once, because I think there's multiple ways of doing this, and how they kind of all interact is actually kind of important. So let's say, as an example, in my mind, we would have some sort of subscriber class, right? Which we would inherit from. Okay, let's start writing out some of this code and see where we get to. Okay, so I'm not saying you're wrong with templates. What I'm just saying is I'm trying to figure out in my mind what that looks like. So in my mind, you have something like this, and then this would be like auto handle. Auto handle message type, right? And then this would have to then take something. What am I doing? And then we could have, as an example, which I will not keep this code in here, we could have, like, you know, my game of, oh no, sorry. And then my game, like, object is a public game subscriber. Public right, something like that. And then, because what I want to be able to do is I need to be able to subscribe people, okay? So yeah, I think, like, I would love to tackle a proper multiplayer game, and I'd also love to tackle an FPS. So I definitely would love to tackle a multiplayer FPS game at some point, but I think that's like next project or after this. This is more focused on like the rendering and the physics and kind of setting up a base, what might eventually be becoming an engine, but I'm definitely not committing to being an engine at the moment. But I think there's some good comments going on. I'm keeping an eye on it. Like, so yeah, I might just make a game called 3, which is Portal 3, Half-Life 3, and Team Fortress 3 all together. We'll just combine the mechanics of all of them, and we'll just release it as 3. Yeah, I think if you want security in a game, you can't trust the client at all. Basically, they will send you inputs, and then you will simulate everything on the server, and then you will tell them what to render, and that's basically all you can do. So, because I'm going to want something like this, right? So I can do like my game object So it from somewhere gets hold of the message bus, probably passes it in. Sorry. Just type key press, right? Something like this. Yeah, I mean this is just purely exemplary code. Like this would not be. This is just for me to kind of get an idea of the API. Well, I missed a subscriber. Yeah, thanks. Got it. Thank you. Glad you're here. I think you from experience, security by obscurity does not work. Like as smart as you think you can complicate and obfuscate your comms, someone with more patience than you will deobfuscate it. You just cannot trust the client. That is like the fundamental rule. Is you just have to assume everyone is a cheater and handle it from there. This is, again, I don't work in the industry. This is my interpretation of it. But again, this is not for the stream, but it is an interesting kind of discourse to have. So anyway, this is kind of like exactly, yeah. Like have a look at any of my videos, or at least like the ones of the like the current style that I do. If you just spend enough time, it's like CD keygens. They have a pretty complicated algorithm, but if you just bash your head against it enough, you can figure out what it is. And then, what was the point? Spoiler alert for next video, by the way. Anyway, so here we are. I'm thinking of something like this. Okay, it's not perfect, but I think it's simple, which is kind of what I want. Because by abstracting out subscriber, I can make it easy to unsubscribe because you just give back that pointer, and then we'd have somewhere in here, right, unordered map. I'm starting to think, right, so I think it's handy to try and unordered map message type just a vector of subscriber pointer, right? And this will be the subscribers. So you can, I'm not going to implement subscribe because we're going to do that in a minute anyway, but hopefully you can see all this does is just like wang that into that vector. Yeah, like once if you run it, if you can run the code and it's in your memory, you can inspect it. Even if you have to run it in a VM and do something like crazy with like kernel level debugging, the code is running on your machine and you can see it. I think that's kind of it. It takes a lot of patience, a bit of skill, and an awful lot of patience in that order. Patience, skill, and then more patience. But it's all possible. Subscribers, let's see. Yeah, I can't spell. Anyway, so my thoughts here is like, post type that, right? So we could do that and then accept over here also, right? Just today. Okay, and that would make this code super simple, and we could probably just move on with our lives. However, I'm not sure if I want that, because the other alternative is like post mouse move. okay. So you actually almost alleviate the need for the typal to specify it, and then be like, I don't know. Let's pick a different. Actually, let's do key press. Key press int key ball down, right? And then over on this side, you'd be like virtual auto handle key press int key ball down void. But crucially, I think if you don't make it pure virtual, then you can just opt in this here to be like, oh, I only care about this, so I'll just override this because this is the only one I care about. The subscriber collection could just be a map of message type to void pointer to some function pointer, which means you could use it on any class. It does not need to inherit from subscriber. I'm trying to avoid void pointers. Like, obviously they have their place, but I feel like I'm trying to... it doesn't feel... I want to lean into the type safety, right? I'm not saying you're wrong. Absolutely not. It definitely would work, but I'm trying to do this and kind of leverage the type system where possible. Then but what would you be asserting? You would just be asserting it's not null, right? You can't assert that it definitely matches that function signature. I see what you mean. Interesting. Okay, so I think there might be... I'm not sure I fully follow you where you're suggesting putting the template. Again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just not fully understanding it. I think this is kind of maybe where we're going. So you want something like template T class T auto subscribe yeah, I'm just, again, this is not real code. This is kind of like, there will be a few mistakes in it because I'm just trying to figure out what I want the interface to be. Message type void T P, and then you would stick that in one of these, which is like that, but then invoke knows what to cast the FP to. I'll have to, let me just, it's been a while since I've used... I'm not saying I'm wrong, I'm just saying I need to verify my understanding of what you're saying. So you would then have like you'd then have a template class args auto post message type args, and then for const auto p in subscribers type stood invoke p stood forward args something like that. My concern is, and not concerned, like I'm sure this would work, but like surely you at this point you've maybe my understanding of stood invoke is correct. I don't understand how this can have any information about what it's invoking because you've just removed it to a void star. But I like this. Because this would simplify. It means I wouldn't have to write a post for every single method I wanted to handle. Cast the... Oh, I think I see what you... I think I see what you mean. You're saying cast it back to a function pointer that takes those arguments. So it would be something like const auto t equals static cast void args. The syntax, this might be slightly wrong here, but you're saying something like that? Do I... Then yeah, you're right, you wouldn't need to invoke it. Which means this would then have to, this should actually be, I'm not convinced. I think this actually might be more, also I feel like this is wrong. Am I... So you would take a function pointer, you would subscribe that lots of suggestions, and I am like ultimately, because I do want to make progress, I'm just going to pick one. I am a sucker for templates. I'm just trying to get my head around whether I fully understand this, because I don't want to write something I don't fully understand and then can't explain. But basically what I think you're saying is you would, when you subscribe a thing to a message, you are subscribing the handler, not the object, right? So this would then have, so what you'd actually be doing here is subscribing handle in this case, but this would then have to be handle. The problem is that then, like, I would still have to know the object I'm invoking on, though, right? Because there's the implicit this pointer somewhere that's missing. So then actually this would become T that? Because, oh no, wait a minute, because you're calling it on T. The problem is though, this is no longer a class. I want them to be, if I want them to be class methods, then I think I would need to take a beer to go through this and fully understand it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I think this might be too complicated for this. However, I do like this kind of templated method. So I'm gonna go back to my original one where we force the use of the subscriber class, because that makes it easy. It makes it almost trivial to unsubscribe because you just pass yourself back in. And then, but yeah, that is interesting. I will muse over that. But I think that because I think then we can do subscriber, and then like subscriber handle type. I think I like that. I think that makes the posting code easier. So we're shoving all the messages into one mixed bus because that's just kind of the first idea I had, and I'm not a game dev, but it seems to make, I just kind of want to funnel everything through. I want a pub sub model, right, effectively, and kind of funneling those through a central message bus seems to be the easiest way. I'll have a look at that in a second. But yeah, this is generic message passing for the game is what I'm trying to achieve. Yeah, I'll probably that's Candy. I'll probably read over that later. What I want to do is I want to get something going, as always, and then iterate on it later. I'm kind of happy for people to give their inputs and make suggestions. But I think for simplicity, I want a single message bus that anything can pub sub via just to get us going. And then if it makes sense to split it out, I'd be happy to do that, because this way all I have to do is really kind of pass around a message bus and allow people to subscribe, and then yeah, I think we can kind of go from there. Oh, actually, I'm thinking now this probably isn't going to work for me because, oh no, it will work. I just have to have a handle per thing. So actually no, is that going to work for me? What is the simplest way to make progress? Yeah, I don't want the handle to receive everything. I want... Okay, I'm actually gonna... strip this all the way back to the simplest idea, right? Which is subscribe and then post key press int key I'll figure out what those need to be later. I think it'll probably be reusing the event types we have. All right, and then this will have a handle key press. Int key pull down. Okay, and then I'll make that abstract, or if this was C#, it would be called abstract, I guess. And then we can just override it as we need to. I think that's the simplest way. I don't think it's fancy, but I think it's easy to understand. I think it's easy to implement. You're right, so there's now need. So in fact, actually, it kind of makes things a little bit nicer because now we don't have to worry about message types and stuff. The only time we actually need message, the only time we need to worry about the message type is during the subscription, and then after that, I'm presuming the unsubscription, and after that we can just post messages and they'll end up at the right place with the right handlers. I think Oh, I'm expecting like loads of message types, like literally like loads of them. I don't think that's a problem. If it's unwieldy, then we can simplify it. You could template this on a message type. Not that it would help you, but it would break that dependency on it. And then we could just go back to a generic post with the type and the data. But I think for kind of getting us going, yeah, sure. But I'd have to update. If I had a new type, I'd have to update some code anyway, right? I'd have to subscribe to it. I'd have to handle. I'd have to. If it was a generic handle, I'd have to add another case to all the switch statements. I don't like code changes inevitable with adding these, so I'm really not that fussed about how that kind of reifies itself. No, it's fire and forget. So you kind of that's my plan. Is you literally just post stuff in. Yeah, I think it's gonna be easier to understand. I guess the only I know. I'm going to go with this, and I'm prepared to make some mistakes and go back and simplify later. But I kind of like this in terms of objects because I think, in my mind, objects are the things that are going to respond to messages because they will themselves have state that will want to be updated on it. So I think we'll go for simplicity first. Great discussion, though. I've really enjoyed that. Give me some things to give me some thoughts to think about. But I want to keep it simple for now, and we'll see where we go from there. Okay, right. So let's actually write up message bus proper now. Now that we've got a bit of an idea of the API. Someone pointed this out. I was talking about my preferred order header include order last stream, and I've neglected to mention that part of like my internal preference is that the first include of a CPP file is the corresponding header file, and then it goes through standard library platform third-party project. I kind of missed that out. No, it makes a difference. So I think all we need to do is do one of those and do one of those and messaging subscriber. So this will do thank you. It is not a template, not today. So I guess, do we care if they are already subscribed? I think the answer is no. because you're just registering an object. So I think it's probably fine just to do like subscribers type dot pushback subscriber. Oh, wait a minute. I just realized what I've said. Yes, they will receive the message twice. So I think we want to actually, hang on. Can we? No, I was thinking about ranges, but I actually think we're better off with using just a better data structure, right? Ordered. Why is this being funny? Hash include unordered set. No, wait a minute. What am I talking about? We'll slow down iteration time though. Ooh, tricky. Do I want to solve this at the data structure level at the risk of potentially slower iteration speed because it won't be as cache friendly, or do I want to create it as an invariant of the class and throw, or do I want to just assert? What do I want to do? I think assert might be the correct case because we could basically, yeah, I think assert, because is it an invariant of the class that you have already subscribed? If you've not already subscribed, sorry, is it an invariant of the class that you can only subscribe once, or is it an invariant of this function that you can't? Thanks, Rand. Yeah, you're only going to subscribe. Oh, this is fair. You're only going to subscribe once. So actually, I think I would rather. There's a really interesting article about like narrow and wide contracts. I guess the answer here is like. Do I widen the contract to check for the caller, or do I just document it as an invariant and make it the subscribers bug in the caller if they do it? Set and assert and double down on it. Hello, Silver. Glad you're here. What's my answer? What am I? Put on the spot in front of 100 people. What would I say? Do I want a narrow contract, which you should probably prefer because it's a bug in the caller if they've already subscribed. So I think assert might be the right answer. It could be a no-op if you're already subscribed. That's another thing. If it finds it, then it'd have to be part of the contract. But that means you effectively can only ever subscribe once to message. I think I might actually prefer that. Now we do have an incoming range. If hang on, so let's do auto subscribers equals subscribers type, and do if std ranges contains subscribers subscriber I think that might solve all of our problems. So you think you... Yeah, this is the wider contract approach. I agree. But I'm trying to work out what you said, where you'd prefer if the subscriber did the register unregister, so they can't even write the bug. What do you mean? Maybe you could elaborate on that, because I'm all about not letting people write the bugs. Because they do subscribe, right? This was what we had in the example code in here, right? They will have to subscribe themselves. Yes. No, contains isn't a view, it's in the ranges library. Okay, I'll have a look. Yes, I am. Thank you. Oh, broke them so hard. This one was well, maybe not even C++. There's just like multiple ways of doing everything right. What's the right? Let me think about this. What is the worst case scenario? Someone is playing the game in a release build. Something has somehow double subscribed. They receive 2 messages. Everything goes weird. They have a terrible time. The likelihood of them double subscribing seems unlikely, because most objects will subscribe in the constructor, and that's reasonably easy to spot. Therefore, it would probably happen in a debug build. So I do think we should keep the narrow contract. Yeah, I think maybe I've already spent more time on this than expected. What I will do though is add a new we'll add a new thing to our error code though, because I don't. Which will log this. Although doesn't this give us a circular reference? Because doesn't log include... Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, fine. Log error. Message stood forward args. And then we can just, we'll add later this is only in debug builds. I think there's aliases for these, yeah, so I should be able to do error. Oh, it is log, yeah, it is log error, yeah. Okay. Okay, so I think I prefer that. Okay. So now we can just do expect. Goodbye, right? No, we still want that, don't we? And then hash include error. Okay, and now we should be able to do expect. In fact, actually, expect this. Subscriber already subscribed. Right, I think we got there in the end. I think. And then message plus header, and then post key press. In fact, actually, we can just probably forward on our actual events, right? Yeah, thank you. Good spot. Events, key event, post key press, const key event, So we can just take that from the window. We're basically just going to wrap the windowing event system in our messaging system and make that available to other people. It might seem a little bit strange, but I think this is, again, kind of the simplest way of doing it. What am I missing? And then subscriber will need to have, so we can get rid of this. And then hash this. No, we will need that. Events, and then handle key press. Const key event. Okay. Have I? Yes, thank you. Okay, and now I should be able to do for no, it's going to be console for auto subscriber in subscribers precious type key press subscriber handle key press event. Nailed it. Okay. I'm glad you're here, AC, and your crisis has been averted. We are having an in-depth discussion on message handling within games, and I feel like I might have picked the choice that no one wanted, but here we are. So let's do e source. No, let's do copy source to source messaging G, and then we can do messaging, and then CMake messaging, and then I can just add to this message bus.cpp. Okay, let's see if this blends. Excuse me. Well, I'm glad at least it pleased one person. I think it's what I wanted. I just want to make a game, but I also want to talk about C++, so, you know, that's what I want. The subscribers list doesn't change during the post key loop. That is an excellent point. There is an invariant here that none of these will cause new subscribers to manifest. It's kind of that's a really nefarious bug that waiting to happen. I'm trying to think if I want to fix it now, because I'm not going to, but there's a couple ways we could potentially fix it. One of them would be to have message bus have like an internal lock, not like a mutex, but like a flag, which before it does this, it sets it, and then any subscribers here get pushed into like a queue, and then at the end when you unlock it, those then get pushed over to the subscriber queue. That's probably the best way of doing it. It means anyone subscribing wouldn't in this handle would not also get the message, but I think that's fine. In fact, I think it might be weird if they did, but that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, also unsubscribes when we do that might also, that's a good point as well. Man, programming's hard. In fact, it's quite likely unsubscribe will shift the list, because if you post a message saying, I don't know, an entity has died or whatever, you might remove that and do the cleanup. So the source code is not currently available. It is my ambition to make it available. The problem I have at the moment is I'm using a lot of assets that I have paid for and therefore don't have the right to redistribute. So I will want to take a fork at some point and tidy it up and then make it available. It's kind of on my to-do list. I'm right at the end. I'm literally about to start. I've started scripting and we'll start filming soon the next video, so that's taken up the majority of my time. After that, if I can kind of convince myself to not roll straight into the next video, which I find it hard to do, yeah, I will try and fork this and tidy it up a bit. So yeah, that. Where have I gone wrong? Subscriber 11. Okay, fine. Sure, that makes sense. The issue there was that because I've defined an empty function, it was saying that the argument was unused, which it was, and that is a warning, and I have warnings set to errors, which I would highly recommend you do. Copy the list on every iteration to prevent that, so it personalizes a hot loop. So what I was thinking is actually just these kind of go having a bit more bookkeeping, where this sets a flag, and then any subscribe or unsubscribe that happens as a result of this gets put in a queue, and then at the end of it, that queue just gets copied to the end of the list. Yeah, and you can't stop this from calling like infinitely. There's lots of issues with this, right? This is absolutely not a foolproof system, but I think it will kind of, for what we want, kind of get us there. Yeah, exactly. Have a temporary subscription list that it goes to, and then when we know when we know we finished processing messages, we can just flush that. We can just append that. I think anyway. I'm kind of just expecting to hit those bugs and solve them as we need to. I thought PhysX was already open source. I could be wrong. Or at least free, maybe not open source, but you could use it for free, right? I think. I'm not a big expert on PhysX. I've never used it. I barely use Bullet. You've seen how much Jolt. You if you've watched these streams, you know exactly 100% what my experience of Jolt is. What am I doing wrong? Back in here again. What have I? Error on line 20. Hey, what have I? This is wrong anyway. This shouldn't be message type. This should be. I might as well. Should I? Sorry. This is wrong. This should be third format string args as well as this should be as well. Shouldn't the log in the error file be game log? No, it's in the game namespace already, so it shouldn't be that. It should be, because I'm pretty sure that's how namespaces work, right? You just it will include the one that you're already in. I think. What am I going to say? All tooling is good if you derive value from it, which might sound a bit weird, but if you have all these static analysis tools on and everything, but you never interpret the results, then they are providing no value to you and they're just making effort. Like, if you say they've caught bugs for you, then they are worth it, in my mind. A lot of problems can be solved with tooling, and the better tooling you have, the better. I.e., this project does not have great tooling. It doesn't have any sanitizers. It doesn't have any automatic tests. It doesn't have anything like that. And it could be better. So my view is any tooling that actually saves you work rather than creates work is a good tool, and it's kind of very much down to your implementation of that tool and your culture and your company of how you use that tool. I have used SonarQube before, and I have derived value from it. So, I don't think it's bad. I think it's one of those things where also, I think Das Candy might be kind of alluding to it as well. If you suddenly just turn it on and you've not had it from the start or at an early point, you might get very fatigued with the output and then not interpret it or log it correctly or action it correctly. So there's also a culture thing around these kind of tools. I've made this worse. Oh, I've made this a lot worse. Maybe I should just use the built-in assert, although I'd rather roll my own. Because then I can have a stack trace as well if I need it. Jesus, what have I done? Right. I definitely didn't like changing that, so let's just revert that for a second. Although it is wrong. I wonder if I probably just need this, right? Which is, again, it's wrong because it should handle that formatting for me, but let's just see if we can get it going. Yeah, it should look, yeah, in your local namespace first, then go out. It was working on ensure, but bear in mind, I've never called this, none of these log. It just, this throws the exception, and then the exception handler logs, whereas here I'm trying to do a log which I think is subtly different. I'm just calling it wrong. Message bus. Predicate. Subscriber subscribed. Yeah, it was logged before in main, which I think just prints the exception, because I think the exception has a formatter. Yeah. Hazard resubscribed for 2 months. Thanks very much. Much appreciated. Glad you're here. Hope you're enjoying it. I'm using the trailing type returns because I wanted to see if I actually liked it on like a sort of small, medium-sized project. So there is probably no reason to use one over the other. If anything, the way I do it causes more confusion. It probably causes more harm than good, as the sheer chaos it seems to have unleashed. But I quite like it. I feel like I'm being stupid. Like, there's absolutely... I also want to spend... I'm spending far too much time on this terrible logging system that I wrote, and I'm full of regret. Read of a variable outside of its lifetime. Call to immediate function is not a constant expression. See usage of message. Reference to function template. Like, am I... I really, like, this is a bull, right? Am I being... Oh, does it give like an iterator to the first matching element or something? No, it's a ball. It's definitely a ball, right? So this returns a ball. And it definitely takes a range and a const value. Let me just... I was not using a const value. For what? Like, what? What? Subscriber's local variable is initialized but not referenced. Eh? Oh, that'd be that. That's fine. That's just a... no, I believe you can use OpenGL with C#. Pretty sure you can. I'm not sure how. I'm sure someone's written a wrapper somewhere, but at the very least you can always pinvoke the native library. Because I don't have Fatal, I don't think. I think I opted out of that. I think I just have debug info warn and error. Is this that thing where error was already defined? Or was that just for the enum type? I used error because error is uppercase error already exists somewhere in the Win32 header, and that was the source of like much misery. I almost don't want to spend any time on this because it's absolutely orthogonal to what I want to achieve. However, I am now intrigued. Line 20. So if I just make it the same as ensure, right, it must be to do with the logging. Yeah, that's fine. Isn't there like, can't you mark it as unreachable? It's just still unreachable. Okay, so that works. So it's definitely something to do with the log. Okay, log error. So what's this doing? Log error is a print on the level error forwarding the args, but the args is just. Is it because? Is it gonna be something? Ah, but is it something like that? Because it tries to pull out an initial argument. I'm sure we've had this issue before. Yeah, okay, fine. But that's... Ugh. Might need to disable that warning. MSVC C4702. Come on, come on. Someone with me. Yes, but this is more of a compiler implementation of it. I'm kind of surprised Stood Unreachable doesn't do what I thought it would do. Getting grumpy with this now. Okay, let's just disable this. This is annoying because this is now going to be a... Look at the disk error page. Is that for that actual warning? Yeah, the only reason I don't want to do it is just because now it's Microsoft specific, but whatever. I guess we are only targeting that at the moment now. I suppose we need to... God, I hate computers. Yes, it is pretty much muscle memory. Well, the good thing now is that I've now got increased the surface of miserable template errors that can occur in this project, having written effectively my own assert. So at least we've got that to look forward to. I thought it was 4101. Was it 4? It's 4702. Let's play Guess the Terrible Warning Number. I'll keep Unreachable in there because it makes me feel like I'm using modern C++. Because I think that came in 23. The actual, like, I really like the definition of still unreachable, by the way. It's funny. It says just invokes undefined behavior at a given point. Like, what a great function. Obviously, like, it has a use, and I'm kind of being a little bit glib, but to read something that just says call this and it'll invoke UB, I think is quite amusing. Okay, right. So now we've done that, go back to what we actually want to do with our lives, which was... yes, yeah. The other error was, if it was the one I was thinking I was not driving println, or it was the format correctly. I was trying to munch everything into the first argument rather than separating out a formatter and then the arguments. Okay. I feel like I should write a test for this, purely because when all those miserable issues that we discussed earlier come in, like adding subscribers during the update loop and stuff like that, we can easily construct another test around. So, sorry, test for messages. Logs are lost cause. Oh, and expect true needs to be fixed. Good spot. Yes, we're going to test it. Oh, well. This red error here is just a disagreement between MSVC and ClangD, and I've just not had a chance to have a look into it yet. Oh yeah, well done. There's lots of curios and weird edge cases in this code already. So this stream is a whole new brave new world. We're looking at something brand new, and this is a message passing architecture. So as we want to flesh out the game mechanics and the gameplay, we want the ability to decouple like the action and response of various game objects. So the way I've chosen to do that is with a messaging system. So things can post messages and things can subscribe to them. So pub sub basically, and then through that they can, you know, affect change on the world without having to massively mangle everything together. Yeah, an event system. But the problem is I've already used the word event for the windowing events, like key down, key up, mouse move, stop. So I've now opted for messaging as the more high level generic construct for the game. And in fact, what we'll eventually do is we'll wrap those events in messages and then allow them to be distributed around. I mean, build errors break everything in C++, right? Can't ignore a compiler error, as much as I'd like to sometimes. The compiler is usually, not always, but usually right. Right, let's write some tests. So let's get up what I want to test, which would be the header file, and then let's write some tests. We've got a load of old tests in here as well. I need to tidy up at some point. So we're going to want message bus tests.cpp, message bus tests.cpp. Let's just update my terrible tooling. Okay, so hash include jetest, jetest, test, message bus, simple, assert, true, false. One day I'll do assert false true, keep things interesting. CMake tests, message bus test.cpp. Let's go. Ooh, so back to where we were. Okay, and then let's check if this blends. Cool, okay, right, so I've definitely integrated it. I always like to write a failing test first, just to check I've wired everything up correctly. It's more just my own sanity than anything else. I think one time I might have been adding a test to a very, very large test set, and maybe I didn't add it correctly in the CMake, and it never ran the test, and I thought it did, and then this is why I now habitually make sure it's integrated first. Sounds right. So let's do auto handle key handle key press const game key event override that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in optional, and then we're going to bring in events key event, and then this will have here a stood optional game key event. That's not what I wanted. Key event. And then what this will do is it will do key event equals event. Glad people have got their bingo cards going. Is that right? Subscriber handle key press const key event. Oh, hang on, I'm missing a. Nope. Void. So now what I should be able to do is do auto sub equals test sub, auto bus equals game message 8 bus bus dot subscribe game message type key press sub, so arrange act bus dot post game const auto event equals game key event game key 8 game I'm trying to remember all this. It's been so long since I've looked at it. Down. This is something like the first code we rewrote. Arrange act so game. No, I just need to put in event, right? And then assert true sub dot key event assert equals star sub dot key event if I've got equality operators set up on that class, which I don't think I do. Oh yeah. There's a snake. There's a snake in my assert. It's for when you really want to make sure it's true. Like it formats your hard drive if it's false. Like double jeopardy. I like how Haran disappears for like an hour and then comes back and just shouts at me for writing tests. I appreciate it. Is it because, yeah, they cannot be... auto operator equals const key event const equals default. All right. Take that. Nice, nailed it. Okay. I think we can comment up some of this. Not comment up, commit up. I should comment it. Gonna just keep this simple at the moment. That's the one we've got. I feel sorry for those children. I'm having a hard time starting my own game engine. I'm not sure how to write my abstractions for Windows renderers, layers, and so on. Any advice using OpenGL, GFW, and GLAD? I think having attempted to write a game engine and then binned it off because I found writing the abstraction is very difficult, I would actually suggest you do what I'm doing, which is start with a game. You can still use OpenGL, GLFW, GLAD. You can still use all the low-level primitives, but I would focus on making a game, and it could be a very simple game. It could be Snake or Flappy Birds or something, and then once you've written that game, that will give you a whole wealth of experience on how to actually build stuff and design it. Write another game, but then port over bits from the first that are useful that you want to reuse, and then that will naturally become the basis for your engine. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. The next project, I'm just going to copy and paste a whole load of code from this project, and then that will be part of the engine, and then slowly you'll find that there's the bits that you use amongst multiple projects, and then there's bits that are specific to the game. That's kind of my advice. However, take that with a pinch of salt, because I failed to build an engine, and I'm currently failing to build a game, so I think building an engine, I found I was trying to be all things to all people. You're trying to make it super generic, and if you're not building a game alongside it, it's very hard to narrow down what requirements you actually need to hit. Whereas if you're doing a game, my whole philosophy for this is I'm only writing code that I actually need to drive us forward towards a game. And then it totally removes the mental burden of having to think about anything else. Like, oh, what happens if someone needs this for an FPS? Like, no, we're not doing an FPS, so I don't have to worry about it. How do you build with MSVC from WS2? That one. MSVC Wine. It's a controversial choice, but it's one I am 100% committed to now, even if it's just because I find it amusing. Okay, let's. Right. Comparison operator to key event. I'll do. What else we've done? We've done add expect function. I'll put like add basic message bus and tests. Cool. How do I deal with singletons and game state in general? Great question. I don't know, because I've not got that far yet in the game. Generally, I prefer to avoid singletons because it's global state. They have their usage. So far, I think we managed to avoid them. I was tempted to make this whole message bus a singleton, so I don't have to pass it around everywhere. However, then that makes it hard to test, and I want to test it, so I'm going to pay the price of the polluting the API slightly and just pass the message bus around wherever I need it. Yeah, and game state, I'm still figuring that out. I've opted for a message bus architecture for part of this. Whether that is the right or wrong answer remains to be seen. You should definitely keep tuning in and see how we get on. Depends. I mean, I do use exceptions, because that's it's a make or break deal for me. That there's not a lot of hair left to pull out. No worries. I hope that's helpful. At the very least, I can cut it up into a short. Okay. I think now I want to keep going. I want to wire some of this in at the very least. So. I like. How do I think this will perform versus other game engines? I think that's like, one, it's not a game engine, and I'm trying to be quite clear and strict on that. I'm definitely not writing a game engine. I'm writing a game that I hope I might extract some common functionality of later and call a game engine. How would it compare against other game engines? Oh, absolutely terribly. This is going to be absolutely terrible. Like, if I just started off with Godot or Unreal or Unity or anything, we would be much further along than we are now. We wouldn't have spent 4 streams trying to figure out a TLV. We wouldn't have spent 2 streams figuring out the logging. We wouldn't have spent however many streams it was figuring out the frustum intersection. It's not as much fun for me. I like to talk about C++, and this gives me a platform, for better or worse, to talk about it. I literally just fat fingered that and quit out of Vim. Okay. So I want to start simplifying this so that these just become events on the message bus. So I think, and I want to pull the camera out as well. So I think we need a player class. So this is where we're going to start something about a bit more game state. I kind of agree with you. I think people doing a bit more from scratch, not necessarily relying on an engine, but kind of making simple games in a small amount of code that they kind of really understand, but can really like get into. I think is good. I think if you just want to make games, you should use an engine. But the problem is like competition is always good, and there's not that many engines really. I think if I was to make like a 2D game like properly, I would probably still do it from scratch, but maybe use Raylib or SFML or something to kind of get through a lot of the boilerplate. But I would still probably look to write it like in C++ from scratch-ish. I think you could write a simple 2D game, more homegrown without an engine. But I'm not advocating. If you want to make a game, pick an engine and make a game. Like there are different skills, and they have different outcomes at the end. Yeah, I think homegrown 2D is I think is achievable for a lot of people, and I think you'd learn an awful lot about how things work under the hood by doing that. Which is why I picked 3D. I think I have a game, so let's go player.h. I have no idea what this guy's going to look like, but well, I know I'm definitely going to need. What? It's a weird error. Anyway. So we're going to want definitely want a constructor that takes the message bus so that we can message bus so we can subscribe ourselves. We could technically do that outside of the class, but I'm going to choose to do it in. And then we're going to want one of these. And then they're going to want a yeah, I mean, having any medium scale project will help you get better at programming and like learning like the language of your choice, C++ or whatever you choose to do it in. So, and kind of going low level and figuring that stuff out. But ultimately, it really depends what you want out of it. If you want out of it a game, then the fastest route to that is using a pre-made engine. If what you want out of it is like a deeper understanding of how games work under the hood, and a deeper understanding of the language of your choice, and a deeper understanding of the platform and stuff like that, then kind of going one level below the engine will pull that out for you. Does the player own the camera, or does the player feed the information into the camera? I think the player owns the camera because I might want like a debug like a fly camera, but I feel that it's still part of the player. So I might want to send like a enable flycam message to the player, and it can respond to it. I had to make one of the places I kind of fell in love with doing this sort of thing was I had to, at university, my final year group project was to make a game. Like, that's what everyone had to do. You formed a team and you spent the whole year making a game. It was, sorry, my third year, my penultimate year. That was great fun. That was kind of, because I'm old, it was really not quite before Unity got quite big, so basically everyone did it in C++, Ogre, and Bullet. And I learned a lot of doing that, which was really interesting. Again, you can kind of use stuff like that to cobble together your own engine, build your own abstraction layer over the top of it, figure out how all the parts interconnect. There's a lot to be learned from doing that. I'm going to choose to put the camera in the player for now, and I reserve the right to change my mind later. It's probably enough to get going with, so that the player can derive a lot of the stuff itself. I guess maybe just for... Oh, it's in maths now, isn't it? Maybe you should also have a position, which I think it will derive from the camera. It isn't the point of SDL3 to like better support the modern like the more modern graphics APIs like DirectX 12, Metal, Vulkan. That was my understanding, but I'm not super into the SDL space. So, whereas I think SDL2 is more like OpenGL and DirectX 11. Doesn't the camera have an offset from the player? Potentially, and we can handle that in the position getter. Again, none of this is perfect. It's kind of enough to get going. I just want to start breaking up. Main's getting a bit gross. I want to start breaking it up into some more sensible abstractions. Okay. I'll do bus.subscribe message type key press this. And that would be event. I'm just gonna, for the sake of simplicity, just log this for now. Debug event. Return camera, which I need to initialize, and then return camera dot position. Yeah, the tick looks pretty cool. I'd be interested in giving it's on my to-do list to kind of have a play around with. Okay. So, here's the question. The camera has like a fair amount of miserable setup. It's just the width and the height. Okay, fine, that's fine. But those red arrows are a victim of my terrible setup. Debug means I'm going to delete it later, basically, in my mind. Info is stuff that I always want to be there. Debug is stuff that I'm just putting in there to fix a problem or to check something, and then I'll delete later. Yeah, well, one thing is, does the player take a camera and I think I would rather do this. And yeah, so this is purely my definition of logging, right? Is stuff I will throw in and delete at some point. It's literally just there so it appears differently to all the other log messages whilst I'm debugging something. Info that might be useful for inspecting the run of the program or just generally providing information. Warning is something that I might need to look at or might be important in the future. An error is something went wrong, and I wanted to keep this super slim line, because when you start adding like trace, fatal, all the others, I think it's harder, unless you have a very strict definition of what those mean, they start blurring. So I wanted to have very few and be quite strict on when I use them, and that's kind of where we're at. Camera's got a default move constructor, right? Yeah, so that's all going to be copying anyway, so it doesn't really make any difference. I've got to be careful here actually, because I'm going to end up with a dangling reference if I'm not careful. Messaging, message bus. Create the window, create that. In fact, actually, I've just realised this breaks my naming convention. Not my naming convention, my self-imposed style guide. And then I should just really not paid attention to anything I've been doing, have I? Auto player equals game player bus stub move camera. And now everywhere I use camera, which is in quite a lot of places, potentially, needs to go to player.camera. Oh, hang on, is that not a... Oh, rats. Oh, that's now const, isn't it? Oh yeah, well, I'll handle multiple window sizes in the future. Right, okay, I think I'm going to have to just make a really bad time of my code. Well, I want to shift all this out anyway, right? So this is actually, there's not a bad time to start getting rid of this. So where else am I using camera? Let's get rid of all this. All this is going to go, right? And then does that take a... Sorry, I'm trying to remember how any of this works. Oh, it takes a construct. Why does that... Yeah, I don't need it now, so I'm going to fix it later. Why do we need the camera? Why is that not... Hey, why is that not const? How strange. Right, let's see what kind of mess I made of this. I probably actually need to compile this. Would help. Thank you, S, for the kind words. I don't know which, are you talking about the live stream videos or the regular channel videos? Either way, I'm glad you enjoyed them. Imgui's pretty great. Can't argue with the de facto indie standard for UIs. Cool, I'm glad you enjoyed them, and thanks for coming along to the live stream. It's slightly different, the live streams, more forward engineering than reverse engineering, but hopefully still fun. Eh? Alright, let's see what we've got. Okay, so nothing should work, which is expected. Of course, I can't actually now quit out. Oh, of course I can. Right. Okay, so now, let's see if we can wire this all together. In theory, I should be able to take my key event, strip out all this logic. Well, let's just comment it out for now. And now just do bus dot post key press arg. Right, so smash my keyboard and get all the events. Okay, right, so that's all wired up. I think there's quite a lot to do now in terms of plumbing, so I think I'm probably going to think about wrapping it up here. I think this is actually a reasonably good place to think about wrapping things up. Let's just fix non-const camera ref. That's annoying. I missed that. Okay, hang on. Just fix this in Git quickly. So git. Did I actually commit that? Right. Okay, fine. So git commit fix up. Minus the player to head tilde, and then git commit dash I auto squash head tilde. Oh, excuse me. Just making a fool of myself live. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, fine. Sorry, just put that in the wrong. Forgot to put that in there. Commit. Nice. Nailed it. Okay, and then commit experimental integration. Yeah, so the next time we will, I think we'll just continue doing this rewiring. I want to get as much stuff out of main into classes as possible. So we're going to need a player class, then probably, I don't know, a level class, I'm not sure if we're going to need like a barrel class. That might be pushing it a bit. I think the level can probably handle that. How that's all going to work with the renderer and the scene and the frustrums, I have no idea. I'm going to figure this all out Sunday. But I think we'll get there. And I think basically what we'll end up with is stream 38. So stick that in the GitHub quick. Right. I think we'll end up with this main being much, much simpler. And a lot of this code, what I want to get to the point where it's easy to iterate on levels. So I'll answer that question in a second. What I want to do is have a moving barrel and then a target, and then you have to move that barrel onto that target and then basically start iterating on that and just see if that's fun? Question mark. Yeah, I do wish we had opt-in mutability rather than opt-in constantness. But again, muscle memory. I just write constant everything. Apart from that camera ref, which was strange. I'm kind of surprised I missed that. Is there any reason I use H over HPP? There is... As far as I'm aware, there is zero practical difference between them because your compiler does not care. CMake does have some opinion, as in like it will only, I think it prefers like one of a number of them, but I don't think it differentiates between them specifically. I don't think the compiler cares because the preprocessor is just going to munch them all into a translation unit anyway. So for me, consistency is key, and I just prefer H. I believe the core guidelines say prefer H over HPP, but I don't think they give a particularly compelling reason as to why. It doesn't really matter. Some people use HPP to differentiate C and C++ files. Some people use HPP to differentiate header-only files. It really, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. I use H because I think that's what I have done before, and it's kind of muscle memory for me. Yeah, it's really up to you as long as you're consistent. You've got the .haran file for everything. Maybe I should, start using .bags for everything and just watch as all my syntax highlighting explodes. But there we go. As long as you're consistent, that's fine. I would too. I should run that on my... yeah. Nothing on ranges. Ranges make everyone's life easier. Do I anticipate any asynchronicity? No. Unless you kind of count, like, the message passing, and something might store those and handle them later, but nothing like... I'm not planning on using coroutines for this. I would like to do some coroutines, maybe live at some point as a bit of a palette cleanser, because I do enjoy coroutines. Not as much as I enjoy ranges, but I have no plan on using them for any of this. Yeah, like... I guess the answer is I don't know, because I really don't know. I really cannot stress this enough. I really largely don't know what I'm building. I'm figuring a lot of this out as we go along live. I'm okay at C++ and can kind of wrangle the compiler a bit to do what we want, and I have some OpenGL knowledge, but other than that, I'm pretty much figuring it out as we go along. I'm looking forward to reflection. I think I'm going to be able to do some absolute major damage in serialization libraries with reflection. I find the reflection syntax very strange. I feel it feels a lot like token soup. I'm sure it makes sense. I've not been involved in it. I don't really know the design, the history of it. There's a lot of like splicing and square brackets and colons and stuff. But yeah, and then contracts I could do with brushing up on as well. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for coming along. I'm gonna hang on. Ooh, are we in the new? Can I give out free things yet? Or have I done all that? I'm not reading that out. Oh, I can. Right, here we go. Five free memberships. Yeah, I think it's really cool that you're involved in papers. I really wish I would love to get involved in papers. I'm just not really sure like how or where or why or what. I mean, like I'm particularly interested in. I too recognize some of those names. They are in. Oh, hang on. How does one? I don't think this works on YouTube, so I'll copy it across. Imagine a bot said that I've not set up yet, and I haven't just manually typed it. There's Discord if people are interested. I'll be hanging around on that for another hour or so while I have a somewhat regular now post-stream beer. So do come along. We'll have a chat. Talk C++. But yeah, in terms of members, obviously membership is absolutely a totally optional thing if you can and want to. I don't in any way, push it. I don't think too hard. But if you want to, that's great. Those are free memberships for a month. You get early access to some videos, a few behind the scenes comment posts, and then there's a members only room on the Discord. Which I will admit is not that busy at the moment. New videos soon, like real soon. I am script writing at the moment, which means I'm hoping to film this weekend, which means I'm hoping to edit next week, which means I'm hoping by the following weekend we might have a new video, which will be exciting. Prime is free on Twitch, that is true. And there's also a Discord bonus for you guys, because AC has done a huge amount of work behind the scenes to make it all work, and I take all the credit. But yeah, I think new video soon. It's going to be a good one. I've really enjoyed it, working on it. It's pretty very much akin to other ones. Games not doing what they should do and making them do it kind of thing. Cool. Okay, that's all I've got. I hope everyone has a good Wednesday, and I'll see you all Sunday. Have a good one.